Hey, it's Mike. Let's talk about Reaper. Yesterday I released a video showing the new Duality EX Bass Studio Amp Sim plugin from Audio Assault. In that video I voiced some concerns about how I felt the controls were not as intuitive as they needed to be. It seemed like the mix knob on the parallel drive ramped up way too fast, like going from 0 to 1 was more like 0 to 100 over a very small amount of movement. I also posted a video on Audio Assault's Facebook user group to discuss the issue and see if other people felt the same way. Audio Assault is a small company. I'm not sure how many developers there are, but I had a conversation with Alex, who I believe is either the lead or the only developer, and I was pleasantly surprised to see an update released within hours of me voicing my concerns. Now, I don't want to say that this update was caused strictly by me posting a video, because I was not the only one with the concern. But what absolutely floored me is the way that this concern was addressed. Alex went out of his way to explain how the controls should be used, but even after his explanation, he went above and beyond and made adjustments to the plugin in order to suit the needs of the community. Let's take a look. I've got a project open with scratch tracks from a song I started writing last night. You can see that I'm using Duality EX for my bass, and if you recall from the video yesterday, my problem was with the parallel distortion. This knob, which now says level parallel, was called mix, and moving from, say, 0 to 1 made a tremendous change in the sound. It made it, in my opinion, way too loud, overly distorted, and somewhat flabby. We can see that he's changed this knob name to say level parallel instead of mix, and also he's added a little bit of graphics to show the difference between the DI and the full chain option. What makes me most happy about this is the level knob acts a lot more sensible now. I'll solo the bass and let's take a listen. We'll turn the level all the way down and disable the parallel drive and just listen to the bass through the amp and cab sim for now. I do have some effects in the rack. I've got the graphic EQ, the compressor, and limiter, but these controls all behaved as I felt they should. So moving back to the parallel drive, I'll start to play a little bit and then engage this and move the level knob. As you could hear, as I turned that level knob, the distortion came in quite smoothly, instead of it being a tremendous jump from 0 to 1. It's a lot easier to dial in the tone now and blend it in. As the name would suggest, this parallel drive strictly runs in parallel, but if we look back here under the pedals section, we have a new addition, a serial drive EQ, so you can have overdrive push through the front of the amp as well as run some in parallel. That gives us a lot more options to help create the tone that you want. Now let's see what this sounds like in context. I'll take the bass out of solo and play a sample. And that is sounding pretty good to my ear. Let's go back and take another listen to that bass in solo. I think I may have gotten a bit carried away just listening to the song there for a minute. Yeah, the control scheme is much more improved in my opinion. Everything is smooth as silk and very easy to dial in. Now, something else that I wanted to point out in this is an issue that I've had with another plugin developer, and this is my main reason for even filming this video. I am so incredibly pleased by the response from Audio Assault, and I can't understand why larger companies can't have a similar response. Let's take a look at a few things. I'll bring up my browser and get it over into the other window here. You can see a thread started in March of this year, and it's regarding Slow Plugin Alliance VST loading. We've got a few pages worth of comments here, and I've got my commentary listed in here as well, but we've started to notice over the past, I'd say maybe 6 months, maybe a little bit more, that Plugin Alliance plugins have started to load incredibly slow. I've got one project that has a handful of Plugin Alliance plugins on it, and it takes about 55 seconds to open. Now that may not seem like that big of a deal because what's 55 seconds, but my issue is that this same project with the same plugins that it has today, about 6 months ago, loaded in less than half the time. And we've had a good bit of discussion about it here on the forum, but I also collected some data and started a ticket with Plugin Alliance to try to figure out what the issue is. I think that most of us in this conversation on the Reaper forum have all done some research and testing on our own systems. I've made sure that my operating system is up to date. I've run a system file check to make sure that Windows in and of itself is not corrupted. Drivers are up to date. Basically, I've made sure that it's not my computer. I found it interesting that I could not replicate the problem with other manufacturers' plugins. So after reading through this thread and talking with others, as I said, I've created a ticket with Plugin Alliance. Let's take a look at that ticket. My first ticket, you can see here, slow load times. See if we can get that to load. And it looks like, well, this was originally created back in April, and it was updated here in early May. This ticket has been closed and merged into another because I was unable to add a comment to this. I got an error every time I tried to add a comment to the ticket. So let's go back here and we can see my update to the previous ticket. See if we can figure out where this starts. I don't remember if this is in order from top to bottom or the other way around. I guess it's probably starting from the top here. I realize you can see my screen, but just to recap what I've got here, seems I'm unable to add a response to my previous ticket regarding slow load times. Attempting to add gives me an invalid token error. Anyways, I wanted to add that to the conversation. So again, I created a new ticket because I was not able to add a comment to my previous ticket. So I did some more testing, and what I'm finding is that any of the third-party plugins, if that is the right word, do not exhibit the same behavior. If I load up a project with Lindell or unfiltered audio plugins, they load near instantly. Now what I mean by third-party plugins is Plugin Alliance has plugins that are branded with their name or Brainworks, and then they have plugins from other manufacturers who are simply sold and supported in the same store. So I further go on to say that checking running processes suggests that something in the way of perhaps anti-piracy measures may have changed within the past 6 months or so, as if the plugins are taking a significantly longer time to verify that they're properly activated. This was not the case during the earlier parts of 2021. I'm not a programmer, so the above is speculation on my part from my limited investigation. I hope the additional information is helpful in some form, and perhaps you can shed some light on the subject and advise if there's anything that can be done to restore the speedy load times the plugins had in the past. Now, I also referenced the thread on the Reaper forum so they could go back and read and see other people's comments. I did get a response, although if I recall, it probably took about a week or so before anyone reached out from Plugin Alliance. You can see we've got a response from Mikey at Plugin Alliance, and he says that this is a known issue that they have reported to the developers for further investigation. They also asked to check a few different things to see if we're running the DAW with an admin account or with admin privileges, and if not, to try doing that. They asked if we could make sure that system components, drivers, and applications are up to date, and they also asked to make sure that the host application is up to date, which I'm always running the latest Reaper. Then finally they said to check if the offline activation method, see below, prevents this from happening. Now what I found interesting with this is there was no attachment, there was nothing to see below. This originally came to me in an email, and again, there was no attachment there, and there's no notes here in the actual ticket online. My next response was not able to reply in the ticket again and got this same error message about an invalid token, so I just replied to the email in the hopes that it would post back to the ticket, and I see that it did. To paraphrase, all of the things that they suggested trying did not make much of a difference. I think at best we may have seen about a 200 to a 300 millisecond difference in loading times. Now as we scroll down, we can see that I have posted back a few times just trying to follow up and see if we could get some kind of response, possibly a timeline or plan of action to see what they're doing to try to correct this. And the best that I've gotten so far is that he's just adding my notes to the ticket. Now, while I am happy that there is some kind of a response, it's difficult for me to understand how a larger company is not able to respond and fix a problem nearly as quickly as a smaller company like Audio Assault. And that makes me curious, if any of you are users of Plugin Alliance plugins, are you experiencing the same problems? Let's take a quick look at one more project and I'll show you what I mean. I made a project specifically to test the Plugin Alliance issue. So I'll go to my recent projects and see if I can find it in the list here. And here we are, load test. Now in this project you can see that I've got 10 tracks, each of them loaded with Lindell's 50 series channel strip. I'm going to close and reload this project. I'll right click my Reaper icon down in the system tray and click load test. Fully loaded and ready to go in a matter of seconds. Now what I'd like to do is remove each of these, and I know there's a faster way to do this, but my brain is just not working that way this morning. I'll go back in and add the Brainworks SSL channel. And even in clicking it there, you can see it took a bit longer to load. I'll copy that over to each of my tracks. And again, there's much faster ways to do this. I guess I'm just not quite thinking about them this morning. I'll go ahead and save this project. Now this is 10 tracks with no actual audio data. So we'll close the project and reopen load test. And you can already see that we're stalling with each load of the SSL 4000 plugin. Now that took a whole lot longer than it did with the Lindell plugins, which again come from Plugin Alliance but are just branded differently. I'm not sure what's different under the hood, but there's something definitely going on with the Brainworks plugins from Plugin Alliance. If any of you are having the same types of experiences, be sure to comment below. That's all I've got for today. I just wanted to highlight the response time from Audio Assault and thank Alex for doing what he did to make Duality a much more pleasant plugin to use. And I hope that maybe we can get some response out of Plugin Alliance as well. We'll see you next time.